What's going on, Bruins fans? Welcome back into the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Cade Nix, and today we're going to be kind of looking at the biggest takeaways from the fall scrimmage that we had over the weekend. And as we gear up closer to the season, there's been some stuff to come out of fall camp so far that's worth mentioning. And the first thing is a positive note. The offense has looked good. Nico's looked good, to be specific, but the offense overall has looked very fluid, very organized, according to reports, and it's just much cleaner. And the run game has been excellent. There's a lot of execution there. The run game we talked about, there's a trio of guys in that backfield that can all be starters somewhere. And UCLA has three of them. That's Wayne Knight, Javion Thomas, and Anthony Woods. Those guys are going to be very impactful as we get into the season. But they're just a part of this offense that looks good as a whole. And the biggest part of that is that Nico Imaliava has looked very good and very polished compared to what we were seeing kind of at the beginning of camp. There were reports coming in the first few days of fall camp that were saying, it might be a slow start for Nico this season. He looks kind of off. He looks kind of sloppy. And today he reportedly looked great. He looks very organized, very clean, and very fluid leading the offense. And Chesney spoke to the media after practice, and he kind of echoed that sentiment. And let me pull up the exact quote he gave. He said, his command of the offense is really good right now. He's doing a really good job of getting us into the right plays. I think he's doing a really good job of seeing the defense. And this defense is complicated and holds their shell as long as they can. And he's doing a really good job of identifying those things. And that's just very refreshing to see if you're a Bruins fan, because the original reports that we heard, again, is that Nico is not looking as good as we would have hoped. He's not leaning into his potential. And I think when I talk about potential, one of the things is his dual threat ability. And at the end of this answer, that when Chesney was speaking to reporters about Nico, he also said, we're not letting him run right now, but as we know, that's a big part of his game. So it's very refreshing to see your coach acknowledge the fact that you can run and that they're going to use Nico's legs, because we didn't see that from him last year. We did not see him run the ball in a structured and planned kind of way. I think the most running that he did last year was in the backfield trying to avoid sacks. And so this is a great step in the right direction when your coach, recognizes and speaks about it, about how that he does plan to use his legs eventually and knows that it's a large part of his game that they can utilize. But other than Nico, there were quite a bit of standouts. And I'm going to get into those in a second. But there was a significant injury. Wide receiver Jonas Smith broke his leg in practice, and he will miss the season. And I'm not quite sure the role in the offense Jonas Smith had, but regardless, a broken leg is a tough injury to have. So thoughts and prayers go out to Jonas Smith, because he will miss the entire season now with that significant injury from practice. I believe it was either today in practice or Saturday's scrimmage. Or Sunday. It was over the weekend, or it was very recent. That's all I can tell you. But another injury that could really impact this team is Riley Robel, the assumed starting center, and he's been out for about a week now, still with a lingering injury, which is a sprained MCL, and it's certainly not an injury that you want to see for your starting center. But the coaching staff still does not see this as a serious thing. I don't know if they're just trying to keep the panic down or what, but they've mentioned multiple times that he looks like he's on the right track to getting ready to go. They're not that worried about it. But I mean, a sprained MCL is certainly something that can linger on into the middle of the season, especially for a starting center. And so when you look at who would come in and take his place if he were to leave a game, right? Originally, at the beginning of the season, we would have said Sam Yoon would be that guy to step up. But with Riley Robel being out, we've gotten an actual look as to who they're sending out. And it looks like Derek Guzman is going to be that second slotted center. Now, like we said, originally, we thought Sam Yoon was going to be the backup center for the majority of the year. And we know Robel was brought over by Chesney from James Madison to be that starting center. But Derek Guzman has filled in that first team rep while Robel has been out. And so that's a little bit of an interesting thing, a little jump, because it certainly was not expected from Robel. But again, I can't get over how a sprained MCL, and he's missed a week of practice now, and they're still not worried about it. And he still looks like the leader in the clubhouse as far as the depth chart goes. But I think Riley Robel could be a significant thing to watch, and I think that I could foresee this being an injury that lingers on to the season and could impact the middle of a game even. I mean, middle of the season, middle of a game, it could impact the season in one way or another. So it's good that Usman's getting reps, and I assume Yoon's getting reps just further on along the depth chart. But it's kind of a blessing that we're getting these reps with these guys so early, because that could be an injury that happens in the middle of the season where Robel is out. Speaking of the offensive line, we spoke a couple of days ago about how there's a little bit of a position battle going on within the guards. It looks like Eugene Brooks, Carter Sweezy transfer from JMU, and Julian Armella. So it looked like those three guys were kind of battling for the two guard positions. So you can do the math. There are three guys in two spots. One of them is going to sit out. And it looks like their minds kind of been made up from what they're putting out. Eugene Brooks and Carter Sweezy have been in the starting rotation, with Julian Armella taking that back seat role. And so I would bet a lot of money that those two guys are the ones that we see starting week 1 against Cal. And Julian Armella kind of comes in as backup, or, if need be, here and there. But he looks like he's going to be the backup guard, but he can be fluid to either of those positions on either side. And then, again, keep going down that offensive line. Jordan Davis did not participate in the scrimmage on Saturday, and Jensen Somerville filled in nicely at that left tackle position. And so it looks like Jensen Somerville is going to be that starting left tackle for this team. And Jordan Davis, he's dealing with dehydration issues. He was dressed at least, but he did not participate. But again, with all these injuries, the coaching staff is seemingly saying none of them really matter. They're not concerned about any of these injuries, and Jordan Davis is no exception there. They're not worried about him, and I'm a little less worried about him than the others, because it's just dehydration issues. There's nothing physical going on. He hasn't broken anything, tore anything. So I would still expect Jordan Davis to be that starting left tackle come week 1 against Cal. But for the time being, Jensen Somerville, again, has filled in nicely there. And so that's at least refreshing to know you have that backup in case something does happen. Ty Diefenbach has also been out with a groin injury. And so we talked yesterday. I think I wrote an article about that position battle going on. And Madden was kind of the leader in the clubhouse, I would say, at the beginning of the spring and fall camps, maybe, for that QB2 position. But Diefenbach has been giving him real competition there. So being out and giving Madden those extra second-team reps certainly does not help his case for that race. But just, again, something to monitor there. And then kind of moving on to the defense a little bit. We talked recently about CJ Lavender, the freshman cornerback. And when looking at the freshmen, and we've been asked, what freshmen are going to start, will freshmen see the field this year, who to watch out for, the answer was kind of nobody. It was really nobody. I mean, we didn't think that we would see really any freshmen start this season at all. I mean, barely even, let alone see the field. So CJ Lavender was a guy that we threw a name out there as someone who's, if there was a freshman, it'd be this guy probably. But Cole Martin was out with a muscle injury from practice recently. Again, doesn't seem serious. He seemed fine. I think this is more of a cautionary thing, leaving him out. But also Dante Lovett, the other cornerback, was out, also looked fine. And so getting those reps in instead of those guys was CJ Lavender and Osiris Gilbert, mainly Osiris Gilbert following that, probably in that higher position above Lavender. But these injuries along this defensive back unit have given these guys a chance to kind of hop in there and get some valuable reps in with the first teamers. And CJ Lavender could actually end up being a guy that plays some meaningful reps. I mean, all it takes is let's say he gets in a couple reps in Cal, makes some plays, and then all of a sudden you can't have him on the bench for full games if he's going to go in and make plays every time he's in. So it looks like CJ Lavender's making the most of his opportunities. Chesney is praising him and what he's been able to do, and he seems like he's very excited about what this freshman can do for this team. And then on the other side of that, Cyrus Gilbert, like I mentioned, is getting in those first team reps as well. And he looks like he can be a significant player for this defensive unit. And so, a couple of weeks ago, we said these two guys, they have talent. They could see the field, but with just such a loaded secondary, we have Cole Martin and Roderick Pleasant and Scooter Jackson maybe coming back if he gets those eligibility issues figured out. There's just not really room for these guys. Well, now with some injuries in practice, these guys are getting their reps in and they're making the most of it. And so I would not be surprised at all to see both of those guys hit the field for quite a few plays when we play Cal in a couple of weeks. And so certainly those guys are making the most out of their opportunities, and I would keep an eye on them for sure. Another guy to keep an eye on, again, on this offensive unit, we've talked a lot about this receiving unit and what this receiving team can really do for this UCLA team this year. And it is a great unit. We talked about Landon Ellis coming over from James Madison, what he's going to be able to do with his connection to this offense, and Chesney and White and a lot of the other guys. We talked about Brian Rowe. He's looked good in camp. He's looked good in practice. All the reports say he's going to be a guy that's a real threat on this offense. And then Samaj Morgan and Mikey Matthews were kind of the guy that kind of fighting over that slot position there. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards Mikey Matthews in that position battle. But kind of one of the guys that's been left out. And again, Aiden Mizell has been terrific according to reports. He's been dealing with injuries here and there, which is not good considering he has a past of that. But he's also reportedly looked great, and he could find himself in a starting position at some point during the season. But one guy that's kind of consistently been left out of those reports is Leland Smith, the transfer from San Jose State. And it's never good to not hear anything from a player, especially when it's a player that you think can have a significant impact on the season. And when he came over, Leland Smith, we heard he could be a real playmaker for this team and a real difference maker. And I don't want to say he's been a disappointment, but we haven't heard anything worthwhile from him, I would say. And we've gone through a good chunk of time in spring camp, a good chunk of time in fall camp, a couple scrimmages, and yet we still have nothing. We've heard nothing considering how Leland Smith's doing, where he is on the depth chart, and where we can assume him to be. And so, I think when you talk about guys that are going to kind of take a back burner in this offense, he's one of them. And he could be one of the transfers that is a little disappointing. And certainly a guy that you'd like to see more of as camp gets going on and the season inches closer. When Chesney was speaking to the media, he also talked about Roderick Pleasant and how much of a standout this guy has been so far for the Bruins. So there's real intrigue from Roderick Pleasant and what he's going to be able to do for this team. He's going to be probably the solidified cornerback one on this team. They're going to rely on him to probably cover most teams' number one wide receivers. And so he's going to play a huge part for this UCLA team, I would imagine. But Coach Chesney seems enthralled with what he's been able to bring to the table and very pleased at what Roderick Pleasant's been able to do for this team. And he also seems like a leader on this team. He's been very vocal in practice, and he seems like a guy that the other guys can rally around, especially in this defensive back unit that is, really this entire team that's full of transfers and new faces. And so Roderick Pleasant's been a guy that's really taken on a leadership role on this defense. I would say him, Cole Martin, and Sammy Omosigo are probably your three. I don't want to give three captains on this defense, but those are the three guys that I would look to if someone's going to make a play on the ball. Those are the three guys you need to be on their game and a real vocal leader of this defense. But it's getting pretty close to the start of college football season. It's August 17th at the time of this recording. We're just a couple weeks away from the start of college football season. But as far as this one goes, that's all we got time for today. consider subscribing to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm here every weekday to give you the best UCLA coverage, football, basketball. We got it all here. And so my name is Cade Nix. I'm your host. Again, subscribe to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast, and I will see you all next time.